If you simply ran out of things to do in vanilla Destiny 2, its first DLC expansion, Curse of Osiris, adds a few new activities for you to take on. But aside from the short but fun raid lair, almost all the new stuff in Curse of Osiris, the story missions, strikes, crucible maps, adventures, and weapons, don't add anything substantial or interesting to Destiny 2 to make it worth revisiting.
All done. Let's get that map.
Curse of Osiris picks up right after the end of the base game's campaign as far as your level goes. You could go directly from the end of the Red War story to Curse of Osiris' campaign, which requires a power level of 200 to 220 without having to grind much in between. For newcomers or PC players who've had less time with the game, it's a comfortable bridge for leveling up between the lower-level vanilla content and the high-level in-game activities like the Nightfall. Those in-game activities are a different story, but we'll get to that in a bit. As a result, though, Curse of Osiris' story missions feel like filler. The campaign sets up an enormous undertaking against the Vex, with infinite timelines and computer simulations and the mysterious warlock Osiris mixed up in it all. But with a 2 or so hour runtime, the missions rush through the interesting concepts and usher you into a simple final battle that is essentially scripted. It's also not enough time to fully understand Osiris as a character, which is disappointing considering he's only ever been mentioned in Destiny lore before now.
If I don't stop the Vex, there won't be anything to come back to. I'm doing this for the both of us.
Don't you even... Osiris!
The beautiful and varied Infinite Forest, a Vex creation designed to simulate timelines and their infinite permutations, is the most interesting addition to the expansion. But even then, the story doesn't task you with exploring it, instead shepherding you through areas to find codes and things that smarter NPCs can use to pinpoint your next destination for you.
Scanning. I can't find Panoptes. The map's too big. Wait, I've got something.
Coordinates for a node in the Infinite Forest.
I'm getting an image, but no coordinates.
I'm out of ideas here.
Other than the Infinite Forest, the new destination Mercury is simply uninteresting to explore. It's a small, circular map with one new public event to try out, a new vendor, and a handful of chests and lost sectors. The foundation of exploration established in the base game is still good here. Having a variety of options to choose from does make things feel less repetitive, but it feels like busy work with little to do at the highest level. That extends to the new strikes, which are almost direct copies of 2 of the story missions, nothing more than another way to kill time. The biggest problem with Curse of Osiris is that it locks the hardest activities, including the Prestige Nightfall and the Prestige Raid, behind its new power level cap. The recommended power for those activities is 330, which you can't reach if you don't have the Curse of Osiris DLC. So if you don't get the DLC, you suddenly don't have access to something you used to be able to do. It's also frustrating if you do get Curse of Osiris because the higher level requirement doesn't fundamentally change these activities. New heroic adventures add Nightfall-style modifiers to the adventures on Mercury, but those missions aren't begging to be replayed. The main incentive to do it at all is to unlock a lost prophecy quest from the NPC Brother Vance, which is one of the most tedious consumable gathering chores in all of Destiny 2. If you do manage to gather 10 of the necessary item through repeating public events and finding chests, you unlock the Forge where you can craft legendary Vex weapons. But for anyone besides the most dedicated players, there's no compelling reason to do all of this unless you want to redo old missions on harder difficulties in order to get loot to use when you do them again. While some of the new loot is worth collecting, my favorites of the ones I've found are a legendary automatic scout rifle and the broken but ridiculously fun Prometheus lens exotic. You'll likely get a lot of duplicates before you get anything you actually want to use. Because the main reward for everything you do is shiny new loot, the frustratingly high drop rate of duplicates makes grinding more disappointing than satisfying. The gunplay feels as great as ever though, so it can be fun to experiment with new weapons, but it's not enough to sustain an expansion that adds little outside of extra busy work. The raid lair, while shorter than a typical Destiny raid, is the one late-game addition that's worth trying. Eater of Worlds is set on Leviathan, the setting of Destiny 2's first raid, but with a different boss and separate areas to explore. It features a mix of Destiny-style puzzles, including a platforming sequence and fun with orbs. Using careful teamwork to solve puzzles is rewarding in ways that the story in simple strikes can't be, and combining that with the right loadout and strong shooting skills showcases what Destiny could be. But in almost every respect, Curse of Osiris doesn't elevate Destiny 2 beyond what it was at launch. Especially for lapsed players, these same old activities reskinned for an unremarkable new setting feel more like chores than ever, and the interesting ideas in the Infinite Forest aren't at all used to their potential. There's still some fun to be had in finding new weapons and maybe tackling the raid lair, But reaching that point is so tedious that it hardly feels worth doing.
There's something else in here with me. Encoded hollow images. Big ones. Definitely Vex. Look, I can't decrypt those files or open the gate. We need backup. We need Ikora. Good idea, right?